Hello, and welcome to Highly Intelligent. I'm your host, Jared Martin, and today I'm joined by professional beatboxer and legend Hobbit. He's a 3-time Vice UK champion and a member of the World Champion Beatbox Collective. If you like what you hear, feel free to check out the subscribers-only bonus content. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode of Highly Intelligent. Welcome to the show. How's it going?
Thank you, bro. Yeah, good, man. Good. Thanks for having me. Excited to chat. All good, and all good.
Yeah, so we met at Bush, and this has been a long in the making.
Yeah, it's been many rearrangements and date changes, but hey,
Yeah,
we're here.
Here we are.
It's time to talk.
So, how'd you get into beatboxing? How old were you?
I was, let me think about this. So I can give you years, it might be easier. I discovered beatboxing in 2002, which was around 22 years ago, and I'm now 36, so you do the maths. 13, 14.
Okay.
Yeah, discovered it. My friend at school, so I used to be a drummer at school, and always loved rhythm, like both my parents, musicians. My dad was like a blues harmonica player in a bunch of bands, and my mom was a guitarist and classically trained pianist, so like always had music growing up, etc. And then at school I hated music lessons. I just didn't, and I blame the teachers.
I see.
It happens. But in break time, we had like a music room in a space, and one of our teachers used to let me and a couple of friends be in there and mess around, and we had a drum kit. So I started playing drums, and I was like, I really love the rhythms and everything. And then one of my friends, his older brother, had a hip hop mixtape on an old cassette tape,
Yeah.
Some people might not know what that is, but Google it if you don't. And on this mixtape, it had a bunch of hip-hop tracks, but then it had If Your Mother Only Knew by Rahzel, one of the most legendary beatbox clips. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I kind of make some of those noises when I haven't got a drum kit in front of me and I'm doing sounds. And then this was in the early days of the internet, and we found certain methods of acquiring music online. Maybe I think you know what I mean. I found Rahzel's album at the time and a couple of live clips, another one called The 4 Elements, which was him and Kenny Mohammed, and I was just like, this is incredible, and just became addicted to it. Discovered humanbeatbox.com, which back then was huge and booming. It was an internet forum back then where you could chat to people. These were the days before Facebook and everything like that, right?
Yeah.
So, you just go on there and look at people, talk to people and search and listen to stuff. And at the time on there, they had text tutorials of how to beatbox.
I see.
And these text tutorials just had the sound. So like a kick drum, it just had didn't have how to do it in audio, but in text it did.
I see.
So it was like, put your lips at the front of your mouth and explained it. So I kind of learnt quite a few sounds like that, which was I think it was quite a unique way of doing it, because it made you sound like you weren't imitating anyone.
Yeah.
All you had was this reference of one sound, and then obviously the reference of other, Rahzel and stuff. But and then just like I say, became addicted, and it became my life basically.
Solid. So what was your first battling experience like? How long had you been beatboxing at that point?
So I first battled at a battle in a city called Bristol, which is in the southwest of the UK, where actually we just had the UK Beatbox Championships, funnily enough.
I see.
And a legendary UK beatboxer, Tight, who created tutorials, which people might have seen, he set up it was like a beatbox night. So it was like loads of people performed. there was loads of legendary people at the time, like Shlomo, A Plus, who was the original owner of humanbeatbox.com, and then a bunch of other people who I'd met on the forums. So everyone went down and they had like an open mic where you could go and do like a few minutes of you,
Yeah.
and then they had a beatbox battle. So that was my first time, and that was 2000 and I'm gonna say 2004, 5, I forget.
I was
But
born
I'd
in
only been beatboxing
2004. That's crazy.
That's mad. Yeah. Well, there you go. I was beatboxing the day you were born, most probably.
Wow.
Which is crazy. But yeah, it was cool, man. And it was like, it wasn't too high pressure, the battle.
What was the scene like back then?
It was I mean, the forums definitely helped keep things quite community based. And like there were quite regular jams. So myself, and a few UK beatboxers like Yason, Bellatrix, some other people like Pi, Minimus, who are all UK beatboxers who UK listeners will know who I am, but they're like OGs. Like you've probably heard of Bellatrix, for example, but
Yeah.
and yes, but we used to have like monthly, if not more regularly, jams. So we'd meet up, find somewhere that's sheltered from the rain, stand in a circle and beatbox for like 8 hours.
Solid.
And it was really nice. And so you do that, and that really helped people connect. And then there was other jams that happened. There was a big one in London that would happen every year, where you just meet loads of new people, and it was quite nice there. And then around that time, the UK Beatbox Championship started in 2005, and then that did really well, and then that was like the thing to go to.
I
So
see.
it'd be like you'd hang out for the year, and then it would gear up to the championship. So yeah.
Solid. Sounds like a pretty tight community. Like,
Yeah, it was nice, man. And it was like, because there was no social media at
Yeah.
the time. Like we had like MSN Messenger,
I see.
and things like that, or the forums. That was our social media, right? So someone would put a post up and be like, "Hey, I'm a beatboxer from this city.
Yeah.
Is anyone else from here?" And then someone would reply and be like, "Oh, I'm 20 minutes on the train." And they're like, "Cool. Do you want to meet up and beatbox?" And you'd be like, "Yeah." And then you'd go and hang out and beatbox all day. So I'd met loads of people that way, which
Much different
thanks to
than hopping on Discord nowadays.
for real. And we had Ventrilo back then, so there was like Ventrilo. I'd gone on a bit and beatbox with like Korean Effects and some people like that who were on the Heat as well, and a few of those guys. But it was different. It was different than
Yeah.
the incredible stuff that's happening on Discord now with like battles every day pretty much, and
Yeah.
like really going in. And so yeah, it was different. It was definitely more like I don't want to say hands-on, because I don't mean it in that way, but it was like you find someone or a group of people to go and meet, then you hang out, you beatbox, and you make friends. And I've got people like like people who I've mentioned, Yason and Bell, and people who I've known since then, which is like 20 years.
Wow.
I don't have friends from school
Yeah.
from 20 years ago that I still speak to, but then there's beatboxers that I do, which is pretty incredible, really.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it was nice, and it was just different. It was a different time. Back in my day, it was different, but yeah, it was it was different, but in a real nice way. And I'm happy that I got to experience that, because not a lot of people will get to experience it in that way, really.
Definitely. You're a full-time beatboxer, correct? So how long have you been full-time beatboxing?
That's a good question. I mean, so let me think about this. I reckon it's like 18 years, maybe 15 years.
It's a long time. It's
Yeah,
probably
I
most
think
than more people.
Yeah. I'd say let's say 15 conservatively. I don't want to. I wouldn't push it too far to make up numbers. But I discovered beatboxing, like I said, and then in my city where I grew up, I started doing open mics where I was just basically getting stage experience. So signing up in like a local pub or a bar or something, or a community like club center, and there'd be like a guitarist on before me, some old man who's singing with his dog, or just, you know, just random stuff, and then I'd go on and be like, and it'd be like, what? All these people are like, what the
Yeah.
what is going on, right? Because it wasn't as recognized and globally known then. I remember telling my like friend's mom that I'm a beatboxer, and she was like, oh, is that like kickboxing? I'm like, not quite. So yeah, so I started doing open mics, and then from that people would see me and they'd be like, oh, hey, do you want to come and beatbox at my party or my event or something? And I'd be like, yeah, cool. And they're like, oh, we can pay you travel. I'm like, cool, I can go and do a gig and I don't have to pay to get there. Fantastic.
Solid.
And then from that, I started doing other gigs, and then they'd be like, hey, we'll pay your travel plus we'll give you £50. And you're like, what? You're going to pay me to do this? All right, cool. And then that just kind of evolved, and it was, for me, it was very organic. It wasn't like I didn't go on the path of being like, I'm going to become a professional beatboxer and that's going to be my life. I think at the time when things started to get more aligned with I should do this full time, I was studying at university to be a web designer and a web developer. And I just it didn't click with me, like education and that. It wasn't really for me. My sister took that. She's the academic one, and she's amazing at that.
I see.
I'm the kind of, yeah. I'm not gonna say the disappointing one, but education wise maybe
The artistically inclined one.
Thank you, that's worded much better. And then it just kind of started to become a point where I was like, I think I've got to leave any formal education and do what was working out at the time. And that was in about 2010, maybe 2011, when I was just 2009, 2010, when I was just like, I felt like it was kind of time. And it wasn't easy at all. It really wasn't. Because freelance, I mean, over here we call it freelance.
It's
the same thing.
Yeah.
So like freelance, self-employed, where you work for yourself, there's no guarantee, right?
Yeah.
So the same with if you're an electrician, or if you're a roofer, or if you're a plumber, there's no guarantee that January is going to be as busy as February, which is going to be as busy as March, right? So yeah, the like first few years of doing it is a bit like jumping 2 feet first and hoping for the best. But that's where the work comes in, right? Then you look at how you promote yourself, how you push yourself as an artist, and how you go that way. And I was very fortunate to work with different projects and go that way. That it's been my full-time career for quite a while now.
You've definitely succeeded in the promotion. I got a Hobbit sticker on my PC right now.
See, that's what it's all about. Always have a stack of stickers in your pocket, because you can slap them up anywhere or give them to anyone, no matter who.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you check into a hotel, you start talking to them, and then you're like, hey, have a sticker. They're like, oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and those kind of things. And you never know what that might get you. You might give them that sticker, and then 3 weeks later you might get an email, or someone hits you up on your socials and be like, hey, random one, you checked into this hotel, my friend runs a festival over here, would you like to come play it? And you're like, wow, sure. You know, anything can happen like that.
Yeah.
It's all about you know, being a nice guy, and pushing yourself in the right way. It's like, you don't have to do the gig, but if the opportunity comes, then you have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah. So speaking of Hobbit, you're pretty fascinated with the Lord of the Rings, I assume.
Funny enough, not particularly.
Yeah?
I'll tell you why. Yeah. My name, the name is actually, it was my dad's nickname, and I've kind of taken it on as my name at the time. And then, so my last name is Hobbs, Hobbs. So Hobbit, Hobbs, it connects, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, to go back to the human beatbox forums, when I was on there, I was like, what's my name gonna be? You know, like when you create your first email address, you're like, this is for life.
Yeah.
What is it gonna be? And at the at the time, my name on the forums was Beatboxer UK. And
Chris
exactly.
Solis did something similar. He called himself Beatbox New York or New York Beatbox.
NYC
Yo,
Beatbox.
NYC Beatbox.
Yep, yep. Every time I'm with Chris, I'm like, bro, I remember the NYC Beatbox days. He's like, dude. Yeah. So I was like, when things started to start, and I was like, oh, this is going to be what I'm doing for the rest of my life, or for the foreseeable future at least. I was like, I don't think Beatbox UK is very catchy, and because I had the Hobbit nickname, and people called that me at school, it was either Hobbs or Hobbit, and my group of friends. And then I was like, all right, cool, I'll do Hobbit, which, I'm definitely a big fan of Lord of the Rings and all of that kind of stuff, but
It didn't.
yeah, that wasn't the reason why.
I see. Okay, I'm glad I
Yeah,
cleared that up.
yeah, and I think it's a big assumption, and there's obviously a lot of crossovers. I've had random messages and pages on social media message me like, Lord of the Ring fan club, be like, hey, we thought you'd like this. I'm like, well, I understand why you've hit me up, so I'm not going to get mad.
Yeah.
But it is notoriously hard to Google, so that's where I realized I probably could have chosen something different. But hey, we're here now.
Definitely.
We're 20 years deep.
I
We're not
actually
going anywhere.
just read The Hobbit this week, the whole book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, it's great.
Yeah. I listened
The
to
book
the audiobook by Andy
Yeah.
Serkis. It was great.
Oh, does he read it?
Yeah.
He narrates it?
Yeah, the Gollum scenes are amazing because he goes in
course.
depth with all the characters' voices and such.
I'm gonna have to get that. Yeah, I've read it. I mean, the movies were terrible, but the book, like, I've read the book a couple of times, and the book is like, yeah.
You're not fond of the
Andy Serkis-
movies.
I thought they were just, yeah, they didn't do it for me.
I see. They added a lot of stuff in there that wasn't
Yeah.
original with the storyline.
Like the whole, it's classic Hollywood, like the random love story, like all that stuff, which is like, it doesn't need it.
The pale orc wasn't originally in the
Yeah.
book, and they needed a big bad for the series, so they put him in
Yeah.
there.
They were like, where can we go?
hmm
They should have hit me up. That's what I'm saying.
Yep. Speaking of which, you did some work on Gumball, right?
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, I got to voice the character of a character called Duke in The Amazing World of Gumball on Cartoon Network for, I think it was like 3 years, I'm gonna say, 2 years maybe. I didn't do a huge amount because he was a side character, but I think I did like 5 episodes, and I also got to write a song for one of the episodes as well, which was pretty cool. Yeah, and it was through another beatboxer did season, I think like the pilot or some of season 1, and I've completely forgotten his name. Apologies out there, I've forgotten your name. And it's
Did he do the beatboxing fish? Because whenever
that was me.
Oh, that was you. Solid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah, but he was in season 1, and then he hit me up on socials, and he was like, "Hey, dude, I've done like 1 or 2 episodes for this Cartoon Network show, but I forget the wording exactly, but to paraphrase, he was like, I'd love you to do it. I think you could do a great job, etc." And I was like, cool, this sounds like fun. Yeah, why not? And then got to do it. So I recorded it all remotely in the UK and in a studio in London, a voice over studio, which was a really weird experience because you go into a voiceover studio as a voiceover artist, and a voiceover artist normally don't beatbox, right?
Yeah.
So a voiceover artist will be doing dialogue, be doing characters, be doing delivery, working on those different things. So this scene needs to be sad, or this scene, you're angry in this one, or whatever it is. And the director in the room, he was great, Richard. He was just like, I've not worked with beatboxers specifically before, but this character still has emotion, so we need to get emotion out of the beats that you do for the parts of this character. So I was in the studio and I just went in and recorded loads of stuff, what I do, all different routines. And he was like, okay, cool. Right, for this bit, and I have a little monitor, right? I have this little screen, little like 10-inch monitor, like iPad size. And on it, it's really early drawings of the episode.
I see.
Kind of stick figures almost.
Okay.
Like sketch. And it's not fluid. Everything moves, like each scene is like, so you don't get a feel for it, but you understand the story.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, in this scene, it starts off that Duke is sad, then he gets really excited, and then he's disappointed, and then he's angry. And then I had to translate that into beatboxing.
I see. That's an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
I think you did well with like the scene in specifically where they're typing on the keys and they're looking up his language. You did well conveying the frustration.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really fun. And then they had the bit in that one episode, which is the one episode that was about Duke. They had phrases at the beginning, which was like, I fixed the brick, I hit the bricks you didn't fix or something. And then I had to beatbox that. So I'd be like, I hit the bricks you didn't, or whatever it was. I can't remember it now. And so I had to work out how they'd beatbox that. So yeah, it was a really cool experience. And, you know, like you messaged me the other day being like, wait, are you the voice of Duke? And I was like, yeah. And because it's not something I've really shouted about hugely, like I put it on stuff when I was recording it, but yeah, a lot of people don't know. So I met people the other weekend, and one of the beatboxers' girlfriends was like, I'm a huge Amazing Murder Gumball fan, and you're the voice. And I was like, yeah, I am, randomly. So it's pretty cool that a lot of people have seen it, and obviously I know it's really big in the States.
I grew up watching the show, so it was definitely pretty crazy. I saw it. I was rewatching it the other night with my girlfriend, and the beatboxing episode came on, and I just had to look up who it was because it just sounded really familiar, and then it happened to be you. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
So it was a cool experience. Sadly I think they only did 4 seasons, and then it didn't get picked up again. But yeah, it was a really fun experience. And then, like I say, there's one episode about what's the episode about? Books. Oh yeah, books being as bad as video games. So them saying like video games cause violence or influence violence, sorry. And they're saying, well, books, if you read a book, some books have way worse content than a video game. So Darwin?
Yeah.
Darwin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Darwin does a rap about how books are worse than books are as bad as video games. And I wrote the song for it, which was really cool. So
nice.
So yeah, keep an eye out. But I know it still gets repeated a lot in America. It's not on. I don't know if it's on so much over here, but yeah, I get random stats now and again. But so yeah, that was a really fun experience and something I never thought I'd be a character in a Cartoon Network show.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So moving forward, do you want to talk about like when you really got competitive in the battles?
I've always had a weird relationship with battling. Like I love watching battles. I love being at battles. I think it's the best. But I've always had a bit of a love-hate relationship with being on stage battling, because I'm like, I'd say my beatbox persona is very showcasey performing. Like I'm very comfortable to perform a half an hour set, 50-minute set in front of 10 people or 10,000 people. Like I know I'm very comfortable in that. But with battling, I was always like 1 minute, 1 minute 30, 2 minutes. I felt like it was a bit more of a constraint for me to showcase my abilities and my, specialities and everything. So it took a while for me to get into that mode. So yeah, I entered the first UK Beatbox Champs in 2006 and got knocked out in the first round.
Dang.
Straight away. But that was 100% due to inexperience of the battle scene. Like I'd only done a small one before that I mentioned earlier. And I'd never really, had that knowledge of how battles work. And then after that, I didn't battle again in the champs for like 2 years, I think. And then I entered again in No, I think I did 2007, then didn't enter 2008, 2009, and then 2010 I came back and I was like, it's time, it's on. And back then in the UK we used to have heats, so we had 4 heats. So there was like a north, south, east, and west heat, and from each of those heats, the first place got through to the final, and the second place got through to another final heat, which was in London, on the day of the finals, and or something, I forget exactly. But then everyone from that then got into the final. So anyway, I won the one of the heats and got through to the finals, and then battled through, got to the final, battled Reaps 1 at the time, which was possibly one of my favorite battles to date, and I took him to an extra round, and I was just like, I've got nothing left, bro. I hate extra rounds. But
it's always great when
yeah.
you get them, though, because the crowd's always asking.
Yeah, that's it. It was it was the final, and yeah, the final was great. It was really like we were in pure fight battle mode.
Solid.
Yeah, and that was really fun, and that really sparked my hunger for battles, I think. And yeah, so I came second, then entered again in 2011, and I came third, I think. Who beat me in 2011? Oh yeah, Ballsy beat me in 2011, but he went on to win. And then 2012, I came like fourth, I think. It was just that year. It was like 2010, 2011, I'm like still going. Then 2012, I was just like, just didn't. It wasn't. Yeah, wasn't computing.
I see.
So and then 2013 I came back, battled Ballsy again, got him to the final, took him to an extra round.
Solid.
Came second again, and then 2014 was my last UK champs battle, and again Contrix took him to an extra round, and yeah, sadly got the vice champs again. So I think it's either me or Beatbox have the most UK vice champs under our belts, which I'll take it.
You also might have the most overtimes under your belt.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's a video of a Circle Jam video that Dilo did, and everyone gets an intro, and he says on mine, he does an intro, and he says something like, Hobbit, like UK legend, but if you battle him, he'll take you to the final, but he'll come second. He just like took. I was like, hey bro,
damn.
But it was all in love.
Yeah, yeah.
In love. He did ask me for permission. I was like, yeah, it's fair because it's true. But yeah, and then that kind of sparked my interest for battles around then, about the 2010, 2011, and I did a couple of international battles. There was a battle that used to happen in France in a place called Maropar, where battled people like BMG and a few people like that at the time, and did a few international battles, world champs. GBB, I did a bunch of GBBs back in the early days, when it was in Switzerland still, and yeah, and I think it just came to a point in, like, after the last UK champs solo battle I did, I was just like, I think in that side of things my battle hunger's dwindling a little, so I still did a few international battles. I did the Florida battle, the first Florida battle, came second there as well, I think. Yeah.
Which one was last year? How long have they been doing that? Or was that this year? Or
no, this year's happening in April. Last year, Florida has been since, what year did I do that? 2016, I'm gonna say 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a while. Obviously, minus the pandemic. So maybe this is their 5th year, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that last Florida battle was my last solo battle. I battled Alexinho in the final, and I don't recommend anyone battling Alexinho. He's a beast, man. I've never been on stage battling someone who's so comfortable. Maybe BMG actually. The BMG in his prime, when I battled him, he was definitely as well, very just like, you don't even need to be on stage, bro. I've already won this, and you're like, you got it in my head.
Yep.
But yeah, and then so I did solo battle, but then in 2015 with the Beatbox Collective, we entered the World Champs, and that was a different experience, I think, because you have your crew, you have your like people with you.
Yeah.
So it's like a different energy, and we very much went into that not battle minded.
Yeah.
We just kind of went on and did what we do, and like we'd been performing together for 5 or 6 years. I'm gonna say at that point.
Who
5
was in the
years, I
crew?
think. At that time, it was myself, Bass Six, Experimental, Bellatrix, and Ballsy, because we could only have five. And I think MC Zany, I think he was on tour with something else, so he couldn't do it anyway. So yeah, and we just went and did our thing. Really, we went on and performed how we perform everywhere, and it worked, and we won.
Solid.
So
I mean,
yeah,
that's always great to hear.
yeah, and it was interesting because I'd always when I'd battled before, I'd always gone in with that like real battle energy, battle hunger, like 65 routines for 10 rounds,
Yep.
you know, that kind of thing. Whereas this was like, we just went on and performed what we do and thought what we have strongest as a performance and as our strongest set, with a couple of battle things. Like we battled Under Control in the final, and Under Control, which was Firebraz's crew back then, who were very like the beatbox version of a turntablist crew. So they had lots of little tricks like really in sync,
Yeah.
like record scratching stuff. And in the final, we did one of their well-known routines in unison as well, and aimed it at them. So that was our one bit of battling where we were like, we got to do it, we're against them, but they're all friends of ours, so it's always hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was really cool. And I haven't really battled much since then. Well, actually, myself and Ballsy did GBB 20, whenever it was, 20, the one before Japan. I can't remember what year that was now. 2019 maybe.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was post-pandemic. Anyway, the last one in Poland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, so it's been one of those things. I mean, I think it's with battling, for me, in my opinion, you need that hunger, right?
Yeah.
You need that like drive to want to do it, because I see so many beatboxers who smash out their elimination round and they do this beautiful thing, and they you know perform their routine, which you know is it whether it's 1 minute 30, 2 minutes, however long, but then when they get into battles they're like, oh, maybe I don't really want to battle, and you lose that. And that's why I was starting to feel that was happening with me. I could go on and perform that showcase element of the elimination, but then when it came to the actual battles, I was like, I don't feel that comfortable to
see
get that in that way. Yeah.
So moving forward, in the future, what kinds of projects do you want to lean towards making now?
Yeah, I think well, I've got a few projects that I do already. So obviously, as mentioned, the Beatbox Collective is a huge part of my career, and we tour and perform all around the world in festivals, for corporate shows, teach a lot of workshops, etc. And yeah, we're very, very busy in that respect. So that's a huge part of mine.
Do you want to talk about how that got started up?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the Beatbox Collective, we'd all met each other. Actually, it relates well to what we just spoke about, because a lot of us met in the UK battle scene. So, you know, I'd battled Ballsy, as mentioned. I battled Experimental, he was in the collective. I'd battled Bellatrix. I'd battled Basics. The only person I haven't actually battled solo is Zany, funny enough. So one day we'll make it happen. He's too scared of me now. That's the problem. So yeah, we'd all met on that. And then there was actually a festival in the UK called Shambhala Festival. Not the one in Canada. There's one in the UK as well. And this festival, we'd all played festivals and met each other at festivals, and when we'd played them, I'd be like, you know, I'd see whoever at a festival and be like, oh, hey dude, I've got a set at this time, do you want to come jump up with me? And we do, you know, perform together, and we'd be like, hey, we should do that more often.
Yeah.
And then that kind of worked from there. And again, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier with with the jams and stuff, you'd always be like, oh, we could create something really cool with this. Anyway, this festival, they wanted to book a beatbox act, but they wanted it to be a beatbox act and not like an a cappella act or anything like that, because they'd always had beatboxers at their festivals. So it was put together by Base 6 and a couple of other beatboxers who basically rallied a bunch of beatboxers together, and I think there was like 12 of us then.
Wow.
So it was like the six I'd mentioned, sorry, plus I think Reaps did it. There was Yason, there was Marvel, there was I think even Darnie was there randomly.
Dang.
He was in the UK, so he came along. I know, random. And we did an hour show off basically no rehearsal and basically on stage jamming and be like, hey, let's jam a hip hop track, let's jam a house track, let's jam a drum and bass track, and they'd each last about 15 minutes. So it was basically like a long mix. But after that, a couple of the guys were like, there's something we can make out of this, I think, and no one else is doing it over here, right? The only crews we'd seen doing it, again, were Under Control, who I'd mentioned, and there's a couple of other crews. There's an old German beatbox crew called Bauklong, who I'm not sure is still around, but they were kind of beatbox and vocalist based, and those are maybe a few others that I'm forgetting, but there wasn't many crews who were doing stuff, especially in the UK. And then we set up a few rehearsals, and over like the next couple of months, some people stayed, some people left, and then we kind of had our group, and over time it's changed and adapted a bit, but yeah, and we just started doing shows, and it was mainly festival based at the time. We'd get a lot of festival bookings where we'd go and party for the weekend and perform and do.
It's always the best.
Yeah, and do probably too many sets because you're there at the festival, right? And you'd be like, oh, this stage needs a beatboxer. Okay. Oh, this one. All right. But that helped get our name around, right?
Yeah.
Because we'd be like, always be available to do stuff.
All publicity is good publicity.
100%.
Except when it's not.
And yeah, except when it's not. But never get any of that. Just be a nice person and you won't get any of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then through our context of doing, jobs at different works, maybe we'd get, like maybe I'd done a job for a corporate company, and then next time they want a book, I'd be like, well, I've got this group that I perform with. There's 5 of us, so instead of having one beatbox, you could have 5, and we could put on a really great show, and then send them a video of us tearing up a festival stage, and they're like, yes.
That's the way to do it.
It just kind of evolved from there, really, and then it became what it is. And then again, obviously winning the world champs helped. We didn't really get booked for many beatbox events, to be honest. We never got like the kind of asked to judge anything or in that side of things, but it did help us with other bookings, because then we could say, we're a world champion beatbox crew, rather than just pushing what we've done. It's like it puts that extra badge of honor,
Definitely.
And yeah, so that's kind of just kept going for years, and it's evolved, and people have left, or people have moved on to different things, but we've kept it going in different ways, and yeah, it's good. We're just working out what to do next. We're working on recording an album or an EP at the moment to actually get some music out there and do more stuff. But it's always hard with a group, right? Because everyone has their own lives. And the kind of clue is in our name. We're the Beatbox Collective. And the thing with being a collective, I know it's just a name, but the thing with the collective, you can obviously, it's a bit less.
You're interchangeable. You don't all have to be there at once.
Yeah. So we do shows of 2 of us, of 3 of us, of 5 of us. And then we have honorary members who come in, the Beatbox comes and joins us, and Beatfox and Kimmy Beatbox. Like a few people can come in and know our set to kind of vibe with us. And that's still going. So that's one of my projects, one of my many projects. And another thing that I perform a lot with is I have a show with a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
And we do a beatbox comedy show. we mainly have a kids and family show called the Mighty Kids Beatbox Comedy Show, which is a kind of blending, melting pot of comedy and beatbox where we have songs. So I use the loop station. We make songs with the kids, and we have loads of songs where we get people up dancing, and then all sorts of fun elements. And it's basically just messing around on stage for an hour with
it's got to be
silliness.
great because when you got sound effects mixed with your jokes, it just makes it way better.
Exactly. And then we have like different routines of like creating a story where I'm doing this, all sorts of silly stuff and ridiculous songs where we get dads up making fools of themselves dancing on stage to a song about riding a pony and all sorts of randomness. It's ridiculous.
Nice.
So that's a really big thing. And then also we have an adults version of that, which is pretty much the same show but just with swearing.
Solid.
It adapts pretty well. And then we do a bunch of hosting jobs as well. We'll host comedy nights and comedy festivals as us, and it's just very interactive and works well together. Like if you're up for not taking yourself too seriously sometimes, in that world it works really well, because I think if you went up there and be like, go, I'm a beatboxer and I'm gonna do my thing, and they'd probably walk you off stage pretty swiftly. But if you can, I've always thought that beatboxing does have its comedic value. Like
you're making a lot of weird noises.
100%. Like I'm sure you've been in that position where you've been around friends or a group of people and they'd be like, yo, this guy beatbox, come over and beatbox. And then you beatbox and people are like, what the? It's that thing, right?
Yeah.
And, it makes people smile. It's very engaging. So it works really well in the comedy world. So that's been a really fun thing to explore and something I never thought I'd really delve into. Because it's never been a thing where I thought I'm going to go on stage and tell jokes, because that terrifies me. I'd love to try it now. I've got to a point now where I'm like, maybe I could try that, but it still terrifies me.
Beatbox comedy really hasn't been a thing before either, so.
No, not really. Like, obviously you have like Reggie Watts does some stuff. I don't know if you know Reggie Watts, but Reggie Watts is like, So
I think I've heard of the name.
Yeah. So he's probably one of the ones that's transitioned it really well. And there's been people that have done it, but not to a degree of like really integrating it. So
yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's fun. And then a bunch of other solo projects that I do and get involved in I've always been in the mindset of not saying yes to everything, but definitely trying everything, because you can always, when you hear about a project, you can always say, no, it's not for me. Or, I think we're fortunate in the UK to have a lot of people who are beatboxing professionally, who you can call upon if you can't do it, or maybe are not so interested in it that someone else might really want to do,
Yeah.
So I've always been up for trying stuff, which has meant I've been, lucky to do stuff like the Cartoon Network show. I've been in a few theatre shows where I've written the music for it and performed in them.
Oh, wow.
Taught workshops all over the world, judged battles, performed all over at different festivals, for corporate shows, for club nights, everything and anything. It's been quite a journey that way.
Is there anything you haven't done yet that you want to do?
Ooh, do you know what? I think mainly collaborations at the moment. Like, one of the things that I really wanted to do two things I really wanted to do for ages, which I got to do. One of them was beatbox with an orchestra.
Okay.
Which I got to do a few years ago with Zany and with Bellatrix. We got to perform a piece called Concerto for Beatbox, which was an actual written score for an orchestra and a beatboxer, which was originally created by a composer in the UK called Anna Meredith, and a beatboxer, SK Shlomo, did it years ago, and then they reprised it a few years ago. So I got to do that, which was a crazy experience of being like, I'm just a little beatboxer and suddenly I've got a whole flipping orchestra behind.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which was really dope. And yeah, it was a beautiful, but I'd love to do that again and do it with my compositions or my music. I think that would be something really epic. Like, if you haven't checked it out, everyone watching and listening, you should check out Tom Thumb's thumbprints and all the stuff he's doing with orchestras, because some of that stuff, like he did one of his really well-known tracks, Ratchet Face, he's done that with an orchestra, and it's just like, this is sick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love to do that, and I think anything like that just elevates it, right? Because it's, as beatboxers, we can recreate lots of sounds, but it would take a very long time in a studio to recreate an orchestra.
Definitely.
So if you can have that, there's a really old school clip, which I wonder if it's still online, but there's a really, really dope clip of Kenny Mohammed beatboxing with an orchestra, and it's sick. It's really cool. So yeah, I recommend checking that out. And one of the other things I wanted to do was perform with a choir and beatbox with a choir, because I've performed with like a cappella groups a bunch and toured with a few of them, and I really loved the raw and pureness of vocals. I just think it's beautiful, and obviously you can have really cheesy a cappella, like your kind of Glee and all of that, which is great and does its job. But then when you listen to some like really well arranged, like beautiful harmonies and
like some Gene Shinizaki.
My guy, exactly.
Gene
is a genius. See what I did there? He is. But yeah, like all of that, I find it really beautiful. And yeah, a few years ago I got to perform with a choir. I think it was like 300 strong choir, made up of all different ages, like
wow,
70-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and it was really fun. It was just something epic to just have this power, this wall of voice. It was pretty special.
It must have been a challenge balancing out your beatboxing levels with an entire choir.
Yeah. Well, do you know, one of the things that really helped, and I'd recommend this to anyone if you get an opportunity to work with a choir, is spend like an hour, half an hour teaching them to beatbox.
I see.
So I taught everyone to beatbox. So we had this moment in it where I got them beatboxing within the piece. But it meant they had an understanding of how you as a beatboxer work and how you do stuff. Because I think for some people, I probably imagine a lot of people, when they see someone beatboxing on stage, someone with a microphone, they just think it's magic. Or
yeah, you can't see their lip movements and such. Yeah,
they either think it's magic or they think it's fake. Right?
Yep.
Because if you're like this, if you're going, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
But then if you're going, you do it like this, they're like, oh, I understand now. So you have that kind of understanding with them, and that really helped with working levels and knowing where to fit in. And also, I think with any collaborating, it's knowing where you fit and knowing you're not the main character. Because, as a solo artist, not just a beatboxer, as any solo artist, you're very used to being like, you have to own the stage, you have to be you have to command everything. But then when you're collaborating with someone, and this could be with another beatboxer, it could be with a guitarist, it could be with an orchestra, it could be with a banjo player, whatever, you have to work out how to complement each other.
Yeah.
Both sonically, both musically, and also like even just volume and presence, because you don't want to take over that moment. Like, say you've made something really dope with a guitarist and they're here and you're here, and then suddenly within it you're going like this, and then suddenly the guitarist is here and you're like, oh, what's happened?
Yep.
And it's finding that, and then knowing where you can fit in, and knowing where you can make them shine and they'll make you shine, and all of that. And it's something that you have to experience to understand how to do it. It's not just something that you might not understand it at first, but the more you do it and the more you collab with people, especially in jams, like the amount of beatbox jams I've been at, battles or whatever, where you'll have a circle jam and everyone's just getting on, and someone's doing a bass and someone's doing a hi-hat, and then some people are doing vocals, and you're like, this is sick, and then someone comes in and they're just like, and you're like, dude, you ruined the vibe, man, read the room.
Yo.
and it happens, right? I think every beatboxer has experienced that, and there's no shade on that individual. Like they're very excited to be there. They want to show off their skills. It's totally fine. But then, it's also knowing where to fit in. So I think I don't know whether it's an age thing, but I've definitely realized now if that happens, I'll be like, dude, calm down, come in, see where you can fit, and like find a way to make them fit into the moment rather than being like away.
Yeah.
And making that happen, because I'm sure I've forgotten it, but I'm sure I was probably that guy at one point.
Definitely.
I think we've all been there. So it's but yeah, I think with collaborating and that, to go off what you said about you must be hard to fit in and work with a choir in that way sonically. It's making sure you have that understanding with whoever it is and fit in that, which I really love, and I just love collaborating with whoever it is, and whether it's if I'm at a beatbox battle and I have a showcase on, I'm always like up for finding someone to just come and jam on stage with me in that moment, because it's like, number one, you don't know what's going to happen. Number two, it's never going to happen again because it's freestyled. And number three, it's the excitement of it could go really well or it could go really bad. And there's just those beautiful moments where you'll be jamming with someone, whether it's on stage or something, and you both go to you think you're both going to finish, and you're doing a rise and you finish, and then
they start building up again,
and you're like, oh no, I didn't finish. And I love those moments because it's so organic and it's so like.
When I first started beatboxing, we would set the phone down and record so we could listen to it later, and we just like go on and on for like an hour at a time, just because whenever one of us thought it was the end, there's like three others that didn't think it was the end, so the other one would just hop back in, and then it was so hard to come to a consensus on when the end of the jam was.
And then you listen back to them and you're like, we've recorded for like 2 hours, but we've actually probably only got 5 minutes of good material.
Yep, there's like 2 or 3 drops that just hit really hard.
Yeah, but that's it, and I think that's one of the things I love about beatboxing is that connection you have with people, and no matter whatever battle I've been to or whatever event I've been to, you have those moments where they're after the event, like it happened at Bush in the accommodation we were staying in. People were jamming in like the kitchen or the living room, and I jammed for a bit, and then I think I went to eat, got some air, and then came back 30 minutes later, and I was like, people are still jamming, this is great. And then you'd go away and they're jamming a dubstep track or something, or a rhythm track, and then you go out the room and you come back and suddenly they're singing beautiful vocals and it's changed to jazz, and you're like, how did that happen in the amount of time I went for a piss and back?
Yep.
But that's the beautiful thing about it, and especially when you get to something like a GBB or World Champs or a Big Battle or American Champs, you'll have these little pockets of people, either someone being like, can I show you my routine before I go on stage, or jamming here, or talking about the history of beatboxing over here, or these like beautiful things. And I think it's been one of the things I really love about it. And again, it's where I've made some of my closest and longest running friends in my life is through beatboxing, honestly, around the world. Like you mentioned Chris earlier, I've met Chris for the first time in years ago, like 2010 maybe 2012.
Dang.
No, maybe even earlier. But the first time I visited New York on like vacation, and then I met like Chris and Kid Lucky at the time, and Mark Martin, and loads of people. And then 15 or 10, 12 years later, I still know them, and they're like bros now. They're like people who I've known for so long. So I love that about beatboxing.
Definitely. Well, I think I've covered most of it. Did I miss anything?
No, I think we had a good chat. I think we've covered most things. I'm happy. Are you happy?
Yeah. You want to move to the subscribers section?
Yeah, let's do it.
Solid. Well, thanks for watching. Do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I think my closing thoughts on this, it's been a lovely chat, but be a good person, enjoy yourself, keep beatboxing, make loads of silly noises wherever you are. if you're interested in me, come find me. Beatbox Hobbit on pretty much everything. The Beatbox Collective, all day, every day. We're here, there, and everywhere. And yeah, come support and yeah, come check it all out. Big up UK Beatbox Champs as well, of course.
Solid. Well, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this episode, go check out the subscribers only section because there's a little bit of bonus content there. You don't want to miss it. So thanks for watching. You guys have a good day. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Highly Intelligent. If you did, don't forget about the subscribers only bonus content. Thank you for listening. I'm Shablambo, and I hope you have a great day.